you. I just had a few comments about pathology. Alexander wanted me to be controversial, but I think pathologists spend our lives sitting on the fence, so to be controversial would be quite tricky. I actually, looking at tumour regression, I did actually go back through our database and looked at our cases from 2010 to the current day, and in that period I was able to find 36 rectal cancers that had had preoperative chemoradiotherapy, and 9 of them actually showed complete tumour regression, so that's 25%, which is actually, I've found that quite surprising, but does fall within the range that's quoted, sort of 15 to 40%. So I think that's quite an interesting figure for our department or our group. In terms of moving to sort of a watch and wait approach, I think there are a couple of points from a pathological point of view. One of them, all these studies, seem to rely on sigmoidoscopy and biopsy as well as a variety of radiological modalities. And when you're looking at biopsy, I think the first thing is that timing of biopsy is very important. Andrew might have some comments, but they all seem to say that any time before 10 to 12 weeks is really too early. That's the optimal time. Any time before that, you probably, you could be biopsying tumour that will potentially regress. So 10 to 12 weeks. I think the major problem with this is, though, that when we see these rectums post chemoradiotherapy, often the viable tumour tends to be quite deep, or it tends to be a few cells or a few groups of cells, so that biopsy, which by its nature is a superficial biopsy, could well miss deeper tumour, and so the false negatives would not be unexpected. But I guess the only thing is that when the studies have looked at this salvage therapy, in this group doesn't seem to have a worse outcome, so I don't know. So they're the only sort of insights I have from the pathology. I don't know if there are any questions now for the panel that have spoken.
Shani, can I ask you, what size biopsy would you need to have preoperatively to do all the studies that we might need, like molecular analysis? Yeah, for rectals.
Well, I mean, at the moment we're sending off to do KRAS testing, for example, we're sending off paraffin blocks of as much tumour as we can get. When we do, but we are also sending off material for EGFR testing on cytology blocks, which are very small samples.
Say we want to do whole genome testing in the future, what would we need from it?
Well, we are doing panels, those panels on quite small pieces of tumour. I don't know if Bob has any insight on this, but I think they're quite small biopsies that they're doing the
tissue. The breast ones are done just on paraffin, a small amount of paraffin embedded tissue.
So if we, what I'm asking, I guess, is if we did this study, like the rectal study I'm proposing, and then we said, look, can we get the paraffin blocks and do a microarray, and can you retrospectively get the paraffin blocks out and say, look, okay, well, we can look for this marker and that marker, or does it have to be done prospectively?
At the moment, we're keeping, we've got all that material archived. We've got, on all the reports now, we actually document which blocks have tumour in them. So if you're doing major resections, that's never
but this is before chemoradiation, for example.
So this is the biopsy, the little fragments of tissue.
Obviously the more we get, the better. But I think they are being done on quite small.
Because they seem to be, when you do thyroid biopsies, they can do tiny little cores. Can you do something similar endoscopically so that we could have?
Well, I guess it's going to become all the more important to get tissue at the start of treatment, isn't it? To get a decent sample at the start of treatment.
And the question is whether we just rely on the surgical biopsies and paraffin blocks, or do we have to send them in again to get properly processed specimens?
No, I don't think so. No.
At the moment, they're doing a lot of the research work that's being done on paraffin embedded.
The blocks are being taken.
Isn't the main issue that if you do paraffin blocks, then, for example, if you go to the nanostring gene expression array, is that you can only do known signatures. You can't do new discovery on it. So that's why you need fresh tissue and frozen tissue to do whole genome sequencing.
What do we need to ask these guys if they're happy to collect?
Well, we can check on that, but I think with the nanostringer, even paraffin-embedded tissue is going to be okay.
It's going to be okay, but you cannot do discovery. You can only do known signatures. You can only test for.
Yeah, right.
You got to know what you're looking for instead of discovering.
As Anthony Gill tells me now, LHD, we've got the largest number of colorectal cases interstate coming through, so it seems a shame not to.
Yeah.
Just a microphone behind you, might as well. Your voice isn't loud enough, you know.
One of the, when you talk about patients who've had a clinical response and the problem with sampling error with your biopsies, an option would be to locally excise the scar with TEMS and get a more definitive pathological answer that way. But when you're talking about local excision, and that also comes across the group that Andrew will proposing, that has its own problems in areas like you may not be able, if you have unfavourable pathology in the TEMS, you may not be able to offer restorative resections to patients, and you may end up with a higher stoma rate because of the
I was worried about pain and healing after a local excision after chemo RT.
There are other issues: pain, healing, inferior oncological dissection. If you do,
But I didn't really think about sort of compromising the ability to do a restorative procedure.
In fact, in that 36 rectal tumours, there were 6 that looked normal macroscopically that actually had residual tumour in them. 3 of them were stage 1 tumours, so would have been fine, but 3 of them were actually stage 3, and 2 of them had 7, were 2B lymph nodes, so 7 or more lymph nodes. So quite advanced tumours with a very normal looking rectum macroscopically.
Well, I think when you agree that if you would embark on a weight and watch, then that would not include, as far as I'm concerned, a TEM biopsy to make sure that the scar was tumour free. I would then go with the evidence between brackets that if you do salvage surgery when it recurs, then you more or less get the same results as in terms of our zero resection.
I would favour that type of weight to watch approach,
Rather than a local excision.
Yes.
rather than
TME
biopsy.
and TEM
But then the other issue related more to the protocol that Andrew had put up of local excision for what were favourable tumours, T2, T3, N0. If you're then compromising the curability with a radical resection,
I'm hoping that Ed and co are going to be smart enough to say, look, you're responding to on the PET and the MRI. We're confident that that's reliable enough that you don't need to do a TEMS or those sort of procedures. And but I suppose the problem is we're in the PRISM studies, there's still going to be, you're sending us the big and the ugly, you're not sending us the early ones, which is the different cohort of patients, and whether that's something we should as a group start analysing, and how would you be comfortable for these 4 centimetres, T2, T3, ones that you'd normally go straight to excision. I think we should try to come up with a protocol for it.
Can I just ask a question, probably to Ed, because it might have relevance to the protocol, Andrew. One of the issues, I think, with pathology complete response is also the timing post-treatment in which you actually do resection and evaluate. There's been some perception amongst us that the later you do it, the more likely you might see the complete pathologic response. So with regards to PET, is there any concordance with the intermediate PET that you get during therapy and the PET that you showed us the results at the completion of therapy? Have there been studies that actually have looked at PET sequentially? Because if Andrew's going to look at intermediate PET, what's the validity of intermediate PET is the question.
Yeah, so no.
It should be with both.
And that's protocol was 2 weeks.
No, that's 2 weeks, but he also...
Where
that
you
data that Ed showed us originally was 6 weeks.
Most of the studies are either interim or end of
What about both?
end of chemo.
Many studies have looked at both, because what's the validity? Unless you've looked at both, which is actually the most accurate predictor?
And in the PRISM trial, Ed's convinced me
To do both?
to do both,
Yeah,
and to see if the one 6 weeks afterwards adds anything to 1 2 weeks in
What you
between.
really want to do is assess the accuracy of the intermediate PET.
Yeah.
To do that properly, you really need to have.
So that's,
The full dose.
we've got the money for the funding for 2 weeks into, a baseline, 2 weeks into, and 6 weeks after.
The one that I've shown is actually systemic review. So they just look at the studies, the sensitivity for those look at intra PET during therapy and those after completion. And it seems to be superior to intra-PET. I didn't come across any head-to-head direct comparison between intra-PET and endotreatment PET.
I think
So Justin, can I ask, are you interested in exploring, is surgery necessary for the earlier stage disease? Or you can pass it to a friend, but do you think that's something that would be useful to explore? Is it something we should explore? What's your sort of thoughts?
I think it's. I do think it's worth us exploring it, but I have some hesitation or reservations about the ethics of it.
The ethics in terms of
Well, these are patients with very favourable disease
that could be very much cured with a.
with a TME.
So really,
And
on
we're
the
relying-
whole, it's going to be only those patients that the alternative is a permanent, it's an APR, and so patients might say, look, I'll go on an investigational approach to avoid a permanent stoma. Is that what you're thinking?
Or we, an old group of patients or a sick group of patients.
Who is more, so the older or permanent APR?
But unless you can predict from the good, the bad, and the ugly, even in T1, T2s who died from disseminated disease, I'm sure we can tease them out. We can confidential with in the next couple of years, and you can tell who is in the group that is. Then it becomes less of a important point, I think, because then the TME will only give you local control and not distant control, probably.
We're not very good at picking out T1s and T2s
No.
with MRI. We're not doing a lot of ultrasound anymore.
Good.
So we're relying on the perfect staging.
It just seems to me that if we can get 25, and I think it's going to be more if we go full chemotherapy up front, for example, then we go to 40% complete remission rates, and this is in the T3s, T4s. So what would happen if you do that for T1, T2? Well, of course, then it's all about what is the negative effect and long-term effect of chemotherapy versus just surgery.
I think we're lacking evidence though.
Yes.
I think you need to do things in stages. So if you can demonstrate high
The
performance
PET and the MRI,
with
it's all up to
intermediate
bed.
PET, selecting a favourable prognostic group, then I think you can get around the ethical issue because you can offer surgery as a salvage. But until you've shown that in a poorer risk group, you can't really go forward in any way.
But if we can get some smart scientists that give us some sort of biomarker as well, that'd be another sort of piece of the puzzle, wouldn't it?
We could add all in.
I think you have to do it that way, but like it or not, we operate in a very different environment to a lot of the rest of the world. In England, with the NHS, it's great, you do it, whatever you think.
But you mentioned Italy.
Yeah. We've got a very highly educated group of patients who know about their disease, they're very well informed. They tell you what they want. You tell them you're not going to operate on their cancer.
There are a lot of patients who do want to avoid a major operation. One thing that you tell them about, you have it all the time with these polyps and you get agonised, they don't want an APR, they don't want a major resection. There's a reasonable subgroup of patients
Not in
that are
practice,
kept.
in the
I
setting
like
of the
consent.
trial, the consent process allows you to get around it.
Yeah.
But you have to have more evidence. I think we need to do that high risk.
I think that's
The other
that's it.
issue there is numbers.
Yeah, it's numbers.
Shani, you said that some of those people who looked like they had a complete response, but some of those that didn't have a complete response, it was just 1 or 2 cells, wasn't it? Now, we're expecting a bit much to expect PET scanning to pick up 1 or 2 cells. The melanoma
Usually
people get
that's the
enough.
case. They're often a small number of cells.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty. So half of them were very superficial, low-stage tumours, but 3 of them were more extensive, T3, intramuscle, with lots of nodes, bulky nodal disease. So.
I was always told that the best way to improve your results stage for stage is to have a really good pathologist, and that's true. But you know, some of those people who are my own patients, and you think, gee, most pathologists wouldn't have even found those cells. So they would have called it a complete response, but it really wasn't. It was. Maybe one or two cells don't matter. You don't know. But they certainly would have shown up on the PET scan.
So that's why the literature kind of slightly heterogeneous. It depends on how you define it and how hard the pathologists actually look at their specimen. I think that's why the sensitivity and specificity kind of all over the place. The paper's quoting 100% sensitivity. I don't really believe that. So, and definitely I've seen cases, even just browsing literature, there were tumors that look like there's absolutely no disease there, and they don't have disease. Even going to abdominal muscles. So,
And that's why I like the 2 week scan, because if you've got quite significant shrinkage after 2 weeks, 6 weeks would be magnificent shrinkage and you'd eradicate completely. So that's why I think the 6 weeks afterwards.
Like one more chance to pick it
Yeah,
up.
so that if you've got good shrinkage at 2 weeks, crumbs, you're a good player. You don't need a dreaded surgery.
But it's
You're
a
good to
3
go.
years, you know. I'm talking about when you stay finished. 3 years.
The Brazilian group, they follow their patients every month. Isn't it? It's a monthly follow-up. Clinical follow-up.
The data's very hard to follow though, isn't it? You know, you presented 90 papers, 90 patients there, and yet in one of their other studies they had 200 and something. So there's a lot of dropouts early, I think earlier.
I think in total they're now actually 90 patients.
That they've been following, you know, but
Yeah, well, they're 5 year follow-ups. Like that's, yeah. So any more questions?
Are you guys aiming for a case series here? Or are you guys aiming for a RCT, is my real question?
I think we need a prospective protocol where we unify.
Because these are good patients who are going to do well either way.
And I'm saying, can we avoid the dreaded scalpel of Dr. Evans?
No,
That's
you're
what I'm
going
saying.
because what you're saying is going to need 1,000 patients.
Well, yeah, I don't know the numbers, they're going to be big. And there are already case series there now. We've got equipoise on people who do well whatever we do too. I want to know, I can't get over what we're actually aiming at in our trial.
I think there's not going to be enough patients in a relatively randomized trial on wait and watch, I think.
Yeah, I think our target overall is 5% local recurrence rate. And if we can get that with the least invasive and the best quality of life long term, then that's our aim, isn't it? That's what I think we should be aiming for.
Thank you everyone for listening, and all the speakers, thanks very much for your active participation. And I agree, maybe it's time to act as a unit and start producing some interesting research protocols. Thanks very much.
Thank you.